What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of HBCU Huddle. Long time no see. I am CJ Hurt, joined alongside, as always, by Mike Wallace. Mike is in Salt Lake City covering the Grizzlies' start to Summer League. Mike, how's it going, man?
Hey, it's going great, man. It's going great. It's always good to be back in the saddle with the Huddle. We had the off-season calendar set up a couple of weeks ago, and now it's good to be back for the show. And we got a lot going on, man. We got a lot coming up, too, and I'm just ready to get back into the Huddle with you, my brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. Been off for about 2.5, 3 weeks. A lot has happened since then. Looking forward to talking about some of it. Today, we are about to go to SWAC Media Days next week. But before we set the show up, let's throw the schedule for the show up and let everybody know what to expect. It's been some weeks we're on, some weeks we're off. We tried to go every other week. I had some vacation, so I was off for 2 weeks in between time, in the meantime. But now we're here today. We'll be back July 16th. That will be from SWAC Media Days. So we'll have some interviews for you guys to enjoy with Commissioner McClellan, TC Taylor, and all of the various SWAC personalities that'll be in Birmingham at that Sheraton Hotel. And then we'll go July 31st. And then August 14th, we come back, and we're back to being weekly after August 14th. So if you look at the schedule, Mike, you see it's only 3 more shows, not including today. 3 more shows, and then we will be full speed ahead into football season.
Yeah, it's that time of year, man. It's that time where, the schedules are set. We saw the national television broadcast for both the MEAC, the SWAC, and all the other conferences are ready to go. And media days are literally right around the corner now, man. So I'm looking forward to being in Birmingham with you and bringing you guys all of the latest for what's going on in the SWAC and what's going on all across HBCU. We got through a great offseason, man. And I think our shows have been great. We come up with some different content plans and some different things. Our pick sixes, particularly the ones about our favorite Black movies of all time. People still talk about that when they see me. So, and I got relatives, friends, and family members who want to contribute theirs as well too, man. So it's been a great discussion all throughout the off season, man. I'm ready to get it going with football again now.
Absolutely. And with football right around the corner, the start of media days is the start of football season. It's before week 0 kicks off even. It's the start of football season. And so I figured, hey, it'll be good because it's been a while since we did a football-focused show with the offseason being what the offseason is. I figured now would be a good time to let you, the listener / viewer, know some things to know before football media days kick off. First things first, this isn't on the list, just so you know. SWAC Media Day, like we said, is July 16th. MEAC Media Day is July 23rd. You can follow along with both of those on ESPN+. Again, MEAC is July 23rd. SWAC is July 16th. So without further ado, here's my 6 things to know before football media days kick off. And I think we'll start, number 1, half of the SWAC is first-year head coaches, Mike. And if you go, so that's 6. It's 12 members of the SWAC. If you go, half of them are first year. Go to the other 6. 3 of those are second-year head coaches. You're talking about Kendrick Wade, first year, Mississippi Valley State. Cedric Thomas, first year, Alcorn State. Chris Dishman, first year, Texas Southern. Coach Coolsey, first year, FAMU. Mickey Joseph, first year, Grambling State. Terrence Graves, first year at Southern. Coach TC Taylor, second year at Jackson State. Coach Woody, second year at Bethune-Cookman. Coach Hampton, who will be right here in September for the Southern Heritage Classic. Second year, Arkansas Pine Bluff. That leaves 3 coaches with more than 2 years of coaching experience in the SWAC, which is astonishing to me.
Yeah, and both of them, 2 of the 3 are in Alabama, at Alabama A&M and Alabama State. When you talk about Eddie Robinson Jr. at Alabama State and Connell Maynor at Alabama A&M. So those guys, and both of them, I'm not going to say on the hot seat, but the pressure is on for both of them to have a breakthrough season. And anything short of a spectacular year in either Huntsville or Montgomery could open up another opportunity at either one of those schools as well too. So those are 2. I'm trying to come up with the third. The third is escaping me.
Coach McDowell.
Ah, that's right. That's right. Bubba McDowell over at Prairie View. So,
Yes, sir.
and he's what, maybe 3 or 4 years in. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so he's
a
he's
lot-
he's 3 years in, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah. So a
Uh,
lot of newness. 9 guys, 9 coaches are either rookie head coaches or second-year head coaches. So there's a lot to prove and a lot to get done.
and if you look elsewhere in the HBCU landscape, it would be remiss of me to not mention that Buddy Pugh is no longer at South Carolina State. Buddy Pugh has been at South Carolina State almost all of my life. Buddy Pugh was at South Carolina State when I was in high school, right? And I've been a college graduate for almost 2 decades now. So you got Chinnis Berry going to South Carolina State, and if that name sounds familiar, that's because he was a coach at Benedict, which means that they need a new coach. Ron Dickerson Jr. steps in at Benedict. You got Trenton Boykin up at Hampton in an interim role. So there are some new faces in places around the HBCU sphere, which brings us to number 2. The second thing that you need to know, that both of these conferences are up for grabs. With all of this newness, Mike, all of these new coaches, gone are the established guard, Coach Simmons, excuse me, the Coach McNairs, right? There's not a Coach Prime out there either. With all of these new coaches there, that lends itself to both of these conferences being up for grabs in a way that they certainly hadn't felt like they were to start a season since we started doing this in 2021, I want to say. And it's been a while since it's felt this wide open. Even going back to that run North Carolina A&T had, right? It always felt like, okay, it's a formality. North Carolina A&T, should they get past like a FAMU and depending on maybe it's South Carolina State, it'll be theirs. And then on the other side, Alcorn State is just running through the SWAC West, and maybe somebody from the East probably not to stop them. So even going back to like 2016, 2015, it hasn't felt to me like this year where it feels just so wide open amongst both of the main football playing conferences at the FCS level.
Well, when you go back and we'll work our way geographically coming west to east, I mean, the SWAC West, it's basically come down to the last game, the Bayou Classic and some other games that week to determine who was going to go to the SWAC championship. I think that's still going to be the case. I mean, there's change at Southern and Grambling, the two tradition-rich teams, whereas, there's also change at Texas Southern. So Prairie View is the team that really comes in with the veteran savvy, with the proven coaches. You talked about McDowell. So I still think there's going to be up for grabs there in the SWAC West.
Piggybacking off of that, Mike.
Yeah, yep.
McDowell and Prairie View A&M, I do believe tied for first in that conference the past 2 years. So just to further illustrate your point.
Yeah. And then coming to the SWAC East, Jackson State, FAMU, Alcorn, change is all around in all of those programs. So I usually feel good about predicting, who's going to represent the SWAC and the MEAC in the Celebration Bowl, but I don't now because again, you even look at the MEAC, North Carolina A&T has moved on a couple years removed now. North Carolina Central loses some key savvy veterans, including their All-American quarterback, so they're going to reset a little bit. And is Howard for real? Can they duplicate what they did last year? Can some of these other programs jump up? Is, Norfolk State really ready to put up or shut up this time? You know what I mean? And so it's wide open. So absolutely, man, the SWAC and the MEAC are certainly up for grabs as you list right there.
Take it if the conferences are up for grabs in large part because of the turnover in coaches and everything you said, Mike, but also because if we go to number 3, that player, that clear-cut favorite for the Deacon Jones Trophy is not here. And this is a really interesting time for Black college football. When we talk about, sports narratives and creating the storylines going into season for people to follow, it's good and bad in both of these type situations. For so long in the SWAC and the MEAC, we'll start in the SWAC, it's been clear, right? Like the past 3 or 4 seasons, it's been like, hey, you should probably follow Shedeur Sanders. He's got something going on right there. Follow him around because he's probably going to do some really impressive things. And sure enough, Shedeur delivered. Same thing with Musa last year. And then in the MEAC, you could say that about a Davius Richards, right? You could say, hey, that's something that's going to be real interesting to watch. Before both of them, you could say, oh, Akil Glass, Tariq Cohen, right? Those are things that you want to watch and make sure you tune in to. And when that lends itself from a TV standpoint, like, all right, great, we know we got to put this team on the TV. The issue then becomes, hey, how do we get interest around all the other programs that are void of this player and this coach? How do we get interest if we're going back to 2022? How do we get interest not just for Shedeur Sanders, Jackson State, Coach Prime? How do we get interest for the other schools in the SWAC and the other schools at the FCS level in black college football? How do we do that? Well, this year you don't have to worry because that guy's not around. Everybody is trying to make a name for themselves, and it lends itself to a more diverse player pool worth watching, if that makes sense, right? There are some players that are coming back that is like, okay, maybe, but none that I feel confident say, oh, no. That guy right there is a clear favorite for this. That guy looks like based off what he did last year, that guy looks like he's going to be at the very least SWAC player of the year, a first team all SWAC. Right now we just don't have that. And that's fun to me. I like that type of parity. And parity in sports is great. Dynasties in sports and dominant teams in sports is great also. But I am pro parity, and there's a ton of parity across HBCU football right now.
Well, you talked about it, CJ. There's no dynamic player that we can point to as we have the last 3, 4, 5 years and say, hey, this is clearly the guy we need to watch. There's not a dominant team, a dynastic type team. We've lost those. The mystery was, okay, what was Central, North Carolina Central going to do running it back again? Before that, what was North Carolina A&T going to do? Could Jackson State, hold on, could FAMU break through? So we had those dominant teams and dominant storylines. And then we had dynamic coaches. Obviously Coach Prime was one. When you talked about what his insight, his mindset was going to be, and he made it easy to follow. Coach Buddy Pugh with the legacy play at South Carolina State, approaching all of these records and things of that nature. So those aren't there. So that's what's going to make next week so interesting, because when the SWAC preseason and the MEAC preseason, all conference teams come out, I can't imagine what that voting was going to be like, because these lists are going to be all over the place, man. So it's a new narrative. It's a new day in both HBCU major conferences. And I can't wait to see it play out on the field. So that's what's going to make this season so interesting, is that it all plays out on the field. There's not going to be narratives going into these games. It's going to be the narratives are coming out. Who makes a name for themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And while I can't point right now to that player, I know that player is there. I know that player is going to emerge, and watching that player emerge is going to be really, really fun. Next up, speaking of the two major FCS conferences for HBCU football, Celebration Bowl, Mike, is getting moved up a week because of the FBS playoffs. And for those of you who hadn't followed that whole storyline, here's the deal. The big boys, the FBS, and the big boys in the FBS, the Big Ten, the SEC in particular, then you throw in Pac-12, Big 12, ACC, those conferences,
There's no more Pac-12, brother. There's no more Pac-12.
There's not. The Pac-2. I apologize. So it's just
the two
it's just the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, ACC for now. They're getting a playoff. So the FBS is now getting a playoff, which means I guess we're due for another name change with those two divisions, Mike, FCS, FBS, but that's neither here nor there. The FBS is getting playoffs, which means that they're moving the start of some of the bowl seasons up, and you're kind of at the mercy of them, because they're the ones bringing in the billions of dollars in TV revenue. So that means that the Celebration Bowl and I think the Gasparillo Bowl move up a week. So they'll be the same week as the Army-Navy game, which is a completely different type of conversation. The issue becomes the last MEAC game, I do believe, is regular season, November 23rd. The SWAC championship is December 7th. So the MEAC will have 3 weeks off to prepare, and the SWAC champion will have 1 week. And so now there's got to be some type of figuring out. I think it's too late for this year, but next year, try and figure out a way to give the SWAC champion and the MEAC champion closer to the same amount of time off to prepare for this game.
Yeah, that's definitely something, and it's a competitive balance issue when you talk about which team is going to go in there healthy. Obviously you take the rhythm from playing a championship game and then rivalry week, then championship game, and then you go right back into the Celebration Bowl. So teams, the SWAC will have a sort of a rhythm and a cadence to what their schedule is like, Whereas the MEAC's advantage is you get 3 weeks off. So any of your guys that have been banged up or beat up or hurt will get a chance to heal. Now, could they lose their edge in almost having 3 weeks off? Possibly and potentially. So in the future, I think these conferences have to come together. The two conference commissioners and the competition committees have to realize, okay, what can we do to stretch out the MEAC schedule a little bit more? Maybe add another bye weekend during the regular season, or figure something out, since there's not a championship game in their conference as of yet, an official championship game. So, I don't know if they take on an additional game or try to figure out how to space their schedule out, because I do think that needs to be addressed moving forward.
You bring up a good point, Mike, about trying to maybe potentially getting a MEAC championship game. Everybody's got championship games now because that's an extra revenue for everybody involved. I wonder with 6 teams if you can do a championship game. And if you can, you can't.
No, you can't. Okay. I mean, you just don't have enough because there's not a separation of divisions.
Oh, and but you don't have to do divisions anymore.
No, you don't. You don't. Yeah. But I mean, with everybody playing everybody, I guess you can make what you can do if you're the MEAC. You can have some teams play each other twice and do a home and home to try to stretch out the schedule. But again, you're also limited in terms of how many games you can play overall. I think it's 12 is the cap before you go into the postseason. But it's more about how you schedule the games more so than what games are getting scheduled. I just don't see if you can. So if you don't have divisions and you don't have a natural conference championship format like that, what do? You just have the top two teams?
Just the top two. Yeah.
Just emerge and play one more.
I think that's what the ACC does or did. They just have their top two. I think the Big 12 is the same way. They just have their top two teams.
Yeah, ACC had divisions though. They had the Pro Tour and they had the other one.
You're right.
I can't remember what the other one
is.
But Atlantic. Right.
The Big 12 is the one that just does away with divisions. So they just have their top two teams play. But again, the Big 12 last year and in years prior have had 10 teams, not 6. And so that's something. But as we look ahead and try and figure some things out, I think the MEAC would be served too if they can. Absolutely have a conference championship game. And Mike, I think you're spot on. Find a way to work that schedule to where you're not having 3 weeks off before the championship game for Black college football. And it's whoever loses, it will be blamed on that, right? Like if the SWAC loses, it'll be, hey, we didn't have the same amount of time to prepare. If the MEAC loses, it'll be, hey, we had too much time off. We were rusty. That's just the thing we do in sports, baby. But to make it fairer from a competitive standpoint, I do think that they should absolutely look at that. Next thing you should know, the MEAC and the SWAC continue to have a strong relationship with ESPN and the ESPN family of networks. They continue to have games on the ESPN family of networks. There are 34 SWAC games on ESPN on that family of networks, be it ESPN2, ESPNU, or ESPN Plus. 3 regular season SWAC contests were moved to weekdays and are slated for broadcast on ESPNU. You got Prairie View A&M versus Arkansas Pine Bluff. That will be on Friday, October 11th. You got Grambling State at Alabama A&M. That'll be on November 14th. And then, of course, you got Alabama State taking on the Golden Tigers of Tuskegee Thursday, November 28th, right? So you got that going on in the SWAC. Over in the MEAC, they have 7 games on ESPNU, and every conference game is on ESPN Plus, which is huge. The MEAC and the MEAC ESPNU Game of the Week begins October 26th. All right, and so they'll have a Game of the Week, and there'll be a rotating team. I don't think the full schedule for the Game of the Week has come out. They've got some sort of MEAC wild card weekend deal with ESPNU as well. So that's big time, Mike. That's huge. Having these games on ESPN readily available, easy to be seen and found, by fans of the various leagues and the various teams in the league. That go a long, long way in continuing to grow the game of football at the HBCU level.
Yeah, you talk about exposure, man, and what these conference commissioners have done has done a remarkable job maintaining these relationships with ESPN and the broadcast networks. And then you're going to see, as this continues to grow, there's going to be more money piped into the pipeline. So the comeback in terms of financial benefit that this is going to have for these schools is going to continue to be tremendous, because that's what this is all about. In HBCUs, your revenue, you have two opportunities to generate revenue: football and then maybe basketball. And not every single conference generates a lot of money on their basketball schedules, but football carries the weight for an entire athletic department, specifically at HBCUs. So when you get these national TV opportunities, that's just bringing more revenue in and you're aligning yourself. But the product has to be great, the product has to be competitive, and these games have to be compelling. And I think with the parity you talked about earlier, CJ, that's going to help, because if you're engaged in a game and the game is close or exciting, you're less likely to tune away from it unless you have a scheduling commitment or something like that. But I love every time I sit down on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I have a chance to watch some HBCU football.
Absolutely, absolutely. Last thing you need to know. This might be small to some of you, but it was a big deal to me. Sideline tablets with in-game video access of various angles will be available for all of the members of the SWAC. And we see this all the time in the NFL. We see it at the highest levels of college football. I'm not sure where everybody else is in the FCS with this technology, but seeing the SWAC say, hey, you know what? That's what they're doing up there. That's what the best of the best are doing. We want to do some of that. And in my head, I just envision a coach with the offensive mind of a Coach Maynor at Alabama A&M, having that ability on the sideline, being able to show not just coaches, but those coaches going to players, quarterbacks, receivers, linemen, and saying, hey, this is what you just did on that drive. Look at this. Let's make these types of adjustments. I think that could be a real game changer for some of the better minds in the conference.
And you have to have this technology. You have to be able, because you're going to be at disadvantage in facilities when you talk about HBCUs versus some of the other non-HBCU, predominantly, or majority mainstream conferences and all those kind of things. But what's happening now is that the transfer portal, with so many athletes used to going to bigger schools first and then transferring into HBCUs, it shouldn't be that drastic of a change in terms of game and competition preparation. This addresses that. These sideline tablets, your ability to make adjustments and in-game decisions much quicker, to have this available to these coaches, also allows the coaches to show that, hey, look, we can do this job just as well as anyone else as well, too. So you don't want to be at a disadvantage. You don't want to be at a minor league level when it comes to technology. And that's a big time step up and a big time boost. But it also goes to the investment level that goes into the TV contracts and all of the exposure that goes into some of the things that you pointed out earlier right here. That's a big time competitive advantage. It evens the playing field across the board. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this helps these coaches and these players adjust.
Absolutely. We got to go pay some bills, but don't go anywhere. On the other side, we're going to share with you our culture makers. I have a fun game to play with Mike. Mike has no clue what's coming for him. You don't want to miss it. You're listening to HBCU Huddle right here in the Built Ford Tough Studios on Grind City Media.
The Grizz Girls are no ordinary dance team. They're known across the NBA for setting the standard for world-class dance and entertainment. From hip-hop to jazz, the Grizz Girls do it all. And they're looking for talented dancers with dynamic personalities to join the team. Do you have what it takes to join a premier NBA dance team and entertain Grizz Nation both on the court and in the community? Visit grizzlies.com/auditions now for more information and show us what you've got at open auditions Saturday, July 13th.
When it's all on the line, you turn to the strong, the stable, the unwavering. To those with a history of raising their performance, to meet the moment. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard, bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st. And you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Now for a limited time, the new $1.99 crispy tender wraps are here at Sonic. Who could deny a crispy chicken tender with bold flavors like hickory barbecue and cheesy Baja? And we can't forget the crisp lettuce and melty cheese to make the perfect bite. Wrap yourself up with some TLC, tender, love, and chicken for only $1.99. Sonic $1.99 crispy tender wraps. Tax not included, limited time only at participating Sonic drive-ins.
Welcome back. CJ Hurt, Bill Ford Trust Studios, HBCU Huddle. Mike Wallace is in Salt Lake City. Let's get to our Culture Makers segment. Bethune-Cookman making a little bit of news out here in the Olympic world, having not one but two former Bethune-Cookman track and field athletes on Olympic rosters in Monet Nichols and Sade McCreath. Nichols is a 2018 MEAC Outdoor Women's Long Jump Champion. She's also a 2019 MEAC Indoor Women's Long Jump Champion. When you talk about McCreath, she qualified for Canada's 4x100 relay team. Both women spent time at Bethune-Cookman. McCreath ended up transferring to Texas Tech after the COVID-19 pandemic. Mike, when you see these two women and you think back to the long line of HBCU graduates, alums, people who attended HBCUs who went on to participate in the Olympics, is there a particular HBCU Olympian that comes to mind?
Oh, no question about it, man. I mean, when you look back at, Althea Gibson, when you look back at, some of the track and field athletes that have come along all throughout the course of time, from HBCU backgrounds and ranks. I mean, those are two that you mentioned from Bethune-Cookman. But the SWAC, I believe, have a couple of more as well, too. At least they were up into the Olympic qualifying tournaments as well, too. So you're going to see some names emerge. I know Jamaica has a couple of athletes who came through or spent some time at HBCUs as well. So, these athletes, man, when you talk about track and field, you're running against time. You're running against, you're not necessarily competing against just your conference. Every time you step on that track, you're doing competitions that are aligned to get you to a time that's going to be qualifying you for national team participation. And to see these two women, elevate their game and do what they needed to do to get back another time to get to Paris, it's going to be exciting to see what happens. My two favorite events, my three favorite events in terms of the Olympics is always number one, track and field. I love that. Number two is boxing. Even though the U.S. team has been kind of down in the last few Olympics. And then number three, obviously, is basketball. I love seeing those three categories, those three sports, and each one of them has some representation, usually one way or another, from HBCU ranks.
Oh, absolutely. According to the Penn Center for Minority Serving Institutions in 2016, there were 44 Olympic athletes up to that point. So from when the Olympics started till 2016, there were 44 Olympic athletes from 16 different HBCUs. Like you said, Mike, most of the time they're competing in track and field, And I think there were another 10 total HBCU athletes for the Tokyo Olympics. So that number is at least at 54 HBCU Olympians. And this year, like you said, of course, we got those two. There are a handful on the Jamaican team. There are a handful on I think Nigeria's got at least one or two athletes on their roster as well. So there's a growing contingency of HBCU Olympians, and I love to see it. I think that I know Tennessee State leads the way. When we go to Tennessee State, Mike, we stop and we look at the monument to all the TSU Olympians. When I think HBCU Olympian, I think Wilma Rudolph, just because I grew up in Clarksville, Tennessee. That's where Wilma Rudolph was from. 16 years old, competing in Melbourne, Australia at those Olympics. So I do believe Tennessee State leads the way. I'm pretty sure Tuskegee is second. I might have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure Tuskegee is second, has the second most Olympians of any HBCU, which makes your boy here real happy as I sit here in all my TU gear.
No question about it, man. And I said Althea Gibson earlier. Obviously, she's Florida A&M and was in tennis. And I was thinking Wilma Rudolph as well, too. She has a statue committed to her image and legendary status at Tennessee State. So, yeah, it starts off with those two when you talk about, how they've, had success beyond, just the national level. They gone international as well, too. But absolutely, man, what Wilma Rudolph was able to do was phenomenal. And, she sets the standard for what we've seen in terms of style and grace. And I'm glad that legacy has continued on and on and on.
The Olympics start July 26th. If you don't have a nation you feel like cheering for, just cheer for the HBCU athletes. They'll be all over your screen. Mike, it's game time. I'm so excited. The only reason I came in to do this show was to play this game with you. Special shout out to HBCU grad on Instagram. Follow them at HBCU grad. You don't have an Instagram, correct, Mike?
I do.
You
It's
do?
my, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not as active as I need to be, but I
So
have one.
that's my go-to social media site. I don't want to read what you have to think or say. I don't want to look at your videos. Just give me pictures and let me react to them. That's all I want to do. Instagram is the perfect place for that. HBCU grad, one of the many HBCU accounts that I follow. They do a really, really great job of pumping out HBCU related content. And one of the things they do, Mike, is they play a game, Name That HBCU. So they'll give you a bunch of pictures, and you have to name that HBCU, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the game we're playing. I want to know if you, Mike, can name that HBCU. Let's start with number one, Kyra. Here we go, Mike. Who's this? While you try and figure out, let me describe the pictures to the people listening. If you're listening to this, you should probably watch for this part. But here's what we got. We've got what I'm assuming is, who would you say that is first, Mike?
Mary, the Virgin Mary.
I'm assuming that's the Virgin Mary. We've got an airplane landing. We've got a basket of some sort with colorful. It's an Easter basket. Okay. We've got the letter N, and then we've got waves coming up on a beach. All right.
Yeah. When I saw that in the color, I just thought Norfolk State, but that's not. I'm not confident that's it.
I will say, Mike. We got a team of directors.
Yeah.
They went perfect on this, and you know what our directors look like. Kyra and Jalen did not participate. They got perfect score. Perfect score on these.
So I failed on that one. If it's not Norfolk State.
Let's sound it out. So we got Mary. What's the plane doing?
Landing.
So Maryland.
Oh, Maryland Eastern Shore.
There we go, Mike Wallace. There we go. My boy not going to let me down. There it is. Maryland Eastern Shore. All right. Next
I couldn't figure out what the N was, though. That's the thing that got me. The N threw me off.
Yeah, it'll do this. So the last one we'll throw up, it got me also. There's something in there that got me. All right. So let's go to the next one. Again, courtesy of our friends over at HBCU grad.
Ooh, okay. We got rims.
Yep. We got a tire with rims. We've got a person embracing themselves, and then we've got a pair of black Air Force Ones.
Whew, man, there's 107 HBCUs though, right? You almost gotta kind of give me some.
I got you. You said rims. What is that though?
Tire, wheel.
Oh, okay. Let's start with wheel. Good, wheel. All right. If you're shivering, what are you?
Cold.
And what noise do you make?
Oh, Wilberforce.
There we go, Wilberforce. There it is.
Okay, I got it. Hey, they did this at the Salt Lake City Summer League, and they did NFL teams. So you had to guess the NFL teams based on these kind of things. So I've seen this game before. Yeah.
All right,
actually, just last night I saw this game, so I should be a lot better.
All right, let's get it going. What's the next one?
All right. Ooh, saw tree 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is gonna be a tough one right there.
Sound it out.
I see Arkan.
Okay.
Arkansas Pine Bluff.
There it is, Mike. So for those of you watching, you see the picture, but for those of you listening, there's the letter R. There's a can. There's a saw. There's a pine tree, and then there's a poker hand with the cards 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. And so if you got a hand like that, that's almost a straight. You bluff that. So that's Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Mike, you are good at this. All right, let's go to the next one.
All right.
Oh, this is hard.
Ooh.
This is hard. We've got an elephant, the letter E, and then we've got like a karate uniform.
Yeah. Elephant. Dope.
What is in the picture for the elephant? What body parts are in the picture?
Trunk.
Okay.
And head, elephant head and trunk. The E. And then what do you call that? Like, what do you call the karate suit? Gray belt? I mean, I see it's a belt, but I mean,
it does have a name, and that'll absolutely give it to you, Mike. Let's go back to the elephant, though. Let's go back to the elephant. What other parts of the elephant are in there?
Horn.
What do we call elephant horns?
Ooh, man, you gotta get your guess as good as mine.
Tusk.
Oh, Tuskegee.
There we go. Yeah, the
Oh,
the
my
karate
goodness.
uniform is called a
Yeah,
gi.
Oh, a
Tuskegee.
gi.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a gi.
Okay.
So that
The
one is
E.
Tuskegee. Yes. Shout out to HBCU grad on
You
Instagram.
can't
If you're not
tell.
following them, go follow them.
Come on, man. You can't tell me the Jacobs had this, man.
They
Come
got
on.
them all.
Come on.
They got them all.
Come on, man. Regular Jacobs.
It was regular Jacob, other Jacob.
Other Jacobs, come on, man.
Mike
Sean
was down there. Sean was down there. The director whose name we don't mention because he left me was down there. Yeah, they all got it. Granted. Now listen, it's 5 of them. It's
Yeah,
5
yeah.
of them. So
Yeah.
like maybe they could figure it out amongst 5. But yeah, they got it.
I give him credit, man, to even know HBCUs, to know that many HBCUs, right? And then to put the puzzles together. Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. All right, what we got? What we got next?
All right, we got the last one, Mike.
All right.
Here we go.
Whew.
So we've got, for those of you listening, we've got 0.0022 pounds. We've got shiny diamonds. We've got a person tying their shoe, and then we've got the sound grr. This is the one that threw me off, and it threw me off because of the last 2. I was looking for something in the middle, but I didn't see it, and then I just got flustered, got confused. But let's start right there, Mike. Let's start with, what is the person doing in the picture with the shoe?
Come on, yo. This is easy. I got this one. Grambling State Tigers.
There you go, Mike.
Yeah.
0.0022 pounds is a gram. The
I'm gonna tell you how I know that.
It's in all the rap songs, Mike. The diamond has a nice bling to it. So you got gram bling, and then you've got a person tying their shoe and the sound tiger. There we go.
That one was the easiest one for me. You know what I mean? Once I figured out, okay, the gur. Because what threw me off is that, this one you had to have the whole, the name and so this was good. The nickname and the name of the school. So yeah, I figured this one out. I'm good on that one.
That was the one I didn't get. I had it and was like, no, where's the state at? There's no state in there. And I figured if you can do Arkansas Pine Bluff, you can do Grambling State. So it threw me off a little bit.
Bling would have thrown people off because that's not the first thing you think when you see that. You're thinking diamond, you're thinking jewelry. So you go through all of this and then bling. But no, the tie and the gur is what I did. And then obviously I backed it up and said, okay, Graham, that's a Graham.
But you don't want to tell the people how you know that.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's in all the songs, man.
That was fun, Mike. Thank you again to HBCU grad on Instagram. Be sure to give them a follow. That'll do it for us this week. We'll be live at SWAC Media Days next week, so absolutely you want to tune in for next week's show. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. That'll do it for Mike. I'm CJ. Everybody take care.